So this is Vigari, a 1979 Pearson 424. It is hull number 78 out of about 225. They made these boats from 1978 until 1984. The designer was Bill Shaw, and it was laid up in Rhode Island. I think Portsmouth, Rhode Island is where it was laid at. It has a lot of features that you would find in a production fiberglass boat from the mid-70s to the mid-80s. Very thick hull. This boat happens to be a full solid hull and it's not cored. Some of the later ones on this model were actually cored. Ours was not. Has a very, very solid deck. And then you also find the fact that it is probably overbuilt. There's a little bit more fiberglass than it needs to be, but the technique they were using was pretty proper. So that sweet spot of a 75 to 85 production fiberglass boat is what a lot of these blue water cruisers are still out here floating around, and Vigari would qualify as one of those boats. We modified this slightly, but this is used to be a doghouse hatch, a slide hatch, but we modified it to where it's just a regular traditional escape hatch. But you can walk down the boat this way as well as from the aft companionway. And that specific feature allowed for what we show you next, which is what we fell in love with about this boat, was the layout down below. It allows for a large aft cabin while giving you a large forward V-berth and galley. There's the two crew. Becca, the other half of the partnership, is gone. And then there is Bosun, the dog is Hyper, and then the new member is Skepper, our new cat. But we bought it on the layout alone. The condition of the boat was extremely poor, and that means that there was a new floor put in, a new ceiling put in, new hatches put in, new countertops, new refrigeration, new freezers, new water tanks, new plumbing, new electrical. So this is a full fridge only. It's about.
Can you open it?
Yeah, it's about 8 cubic feet, I think.
Oh, that's pretty big.
Pretty big, both sides of it.
Freezer?
That's only fridge on this side. This is, and then this is the freezer. It used to be dry storage. I made these and then converted that to a freezer, and that's running at 19 degrees, and that one's running at 42 Fahrenheit. And then there's a third one over there because we have such electricity that we run a third little drink cooler. And you just open up here, and then most of the wine and the beers are living there, so we don't have to open up the other ones. Basically, the wood you see was restored, and the rigging and the structure of the boat is the same, but everything else you see have been replaced by Becca and I over about a 3-year period while we refitted the boat. And in doing that, we probably came up with the neatest thing we had done was converted it to an electric motor. That is where the old transmission used to be, so I'll kind of back into this. We talked about that unique layout. Well, the unique layout was done because there was a reverse mounted motor here. So this used to be where the giant 60 horsepower Westerbeek lived, and then it drove forward to a transmission that then shot through the bottom of the keel, or the back of the boat, and then turned its prop. Well, that layout allowed for this big aft cabin, but when we bought the boat, we knew it needed to be repowered. It so happened we repowered it with electric. So when we did that, the physical space of an electric motor is so much smaller that we fit the whole area where the transmission used to live. And so now all of our batteries, which are lithium-ion batteries, and our controllers, our chargers, they all live back here. And the actual propulsion lives underneath the floorboard, and it's dead silent. So that piece of the puzzle is something I don't know that we could ever go back to diesel, honestly. I mean, it's got the trade-offs of them, but having done it and having done about 20,000 miles on a 31-foot sailboat with a diesel, I still would say that. It's a pretty nice thing. And having those big batteries to run those motors, when we're at anchor, as Hoop knows, we don't worry about electricity. So we have enough electricity for air conditioning, hot water heaters, all of our electrical galley. Actually, you can see there behind you, the stove is being taken out because we're converting the galley to full electric, which we just had brought in for us because we have so much electricity that we don't need propane, and safer on a boat not to have propane, so I've been moving that way. One other nice thing about this boat specifically that we did like, single head. I'm a fan that a 40-foot boat, if you're a cruiser, you don't need 2 heads. I think it's a waste of space. That's other people's opinions, have their own. This one head, what it allowed for was a dedicated shower space, and this, you don't have a wet head. Pearson did make these 424s with a 2-head layout. This one just happened to have one, and it's what I would prefer. The one thing we give up on this boat that Becca would have liked is a U-shaped galley. When you come forward on the boat, you only have spots on either side to sit down. So there used to be another table here. We took one out and then left this one here. Obviously the stove doesn't live here. So it's a pretty open saloon, but when you have company, we wind up talking across and through this mast. So not the most ideal thing. We didn't spend a lot of time outside, but usually we eat in the cockpit, and that Pearson 424 specifically has one of the best cockpits for that. It's not a great open ocean cockpit because it's kind of large, but when you're not open ocean cruising and you're just enjoying life, you can have 8 people in that cockpit very, very comfortably, and that's a nice thing to have because you spend a lot of your time at anchor. And then the last thing is just the V-berth up here. This is where a lot of people sleep. Me and Becca choose to sleep in the back that own these Pearson 424s. It has what I thought we weren't going to probably like, but it turned out to be useful. When you ever do pick up a passage member for like a third person, for a guest coming down that wants to save money and stay on the boat with you, or if you're actually making a passage, you pick up a crew, the ability to come up here and sleep and then wash your face at the end of the night and brush your teeth without having to be back in the main cabin turned out to be very useful. So that was nice. But other than that, it's just a normal V-berth with the cabins or closet on that side. And we took out the water tanks because we had a challenge when we took out that diesel motor. We took out about 1,000 pounds of weight in the back of the boat. Well, the boat wanted to do this. Well, anyone knows cruising, like, you're bow heavy, that's not where you want to be bow heavy. So we had to do a lot of things to solve it, but one of the things we did was we cut out this forward water tank to help get the bow up lighter. So, and then one knock on these boats that is a well-known issue, this has been replaced by myself. We beat in the Caribbean for a whole season, as you can attest to, and the boat was flexing, and it's a known issue on this boat, and so it needed to be reinforced. So in Martinique, I added some vertical stringers and reinforced it, and then I've still got to add a couple horizontal below the waterline. But overall, we've been thrilled with this boat. We bought this for around 22 boat bucks, and we probably...
For who doesn't know, that's $22,000.
That's right. And then we probably put ballpark around 120 boat bucks into it over the last 5 years.
But when was it? Would it have been good enough?
There was a point where I told Becca when we were still deciding, because I had been the sailor and Becca had not, and then we were still deciding on whether or not this was really going to happen, right? Early days, and we're like maybe 9 months into the refit, and I look at Becca and I said, now's the time. This boat is now worth, maybe to the right buyer, $75,000 to $80,000, and we had only in it at that point just around like $38,000 to $40,000. And that boat was ready to go at that point. We could have gone cruising at that point, but we had obligations and other things, and so then you get diminishing marginal return where you invest more and more money, and you don't get any return on that from your actual product. You get comfort of your life. And so this is us now changing out our galley, not because the propane's ineffective, but because it's slightly better and more convenient for us, and we've realized that conveniences really matter out here. It's hard. You have to have a boat that gives you comfort and makes you feel comfortable. To be able to turn that air conditioner on, that's a special, even though it's only 2 hours, like, it's a special feeling to have a, you know, make a warm meal, make the boat cold, turn the air conditioner on, and then watch a movie after 4 or 5 days out there. That rejuvenates you, and then you don't feel the need to go in and spend the next 3 days on land and then spend $500 in the marina because you need to connect. So having a boat that has been our home and to be able to provide for us really has helped us stay out here. So that'd be maybe one of my unique thing that we kind of learned.
As you guys know, I am looking for my next boat, my next ideal boat, and I think that 39 to 42 foot boat, 40 to 44, somewhere in that range, is a size boat that for the majority of people could be the ideal boat, because it could be just big enough for a family. You could do a charter on it. It's fast enough because it has a long water line. And Keith and I know each other since a very long time, and you know that if you have been following my channel for a while. So you also answer everything really honest, and I think that's always interesting, because sometimes if you ask a boat owner, they love their boat so much, they only have good words about their boat, and it's really important to really know the truth in order so that I, and perhaps you, can make the right choices in the future. So actually I'm going to start with this one. Okay, I have bad news and I have good news for you.
Okay.
The bad news is your boat caught fire, it sank. It's gone.
No.
You don't have an insurance.
Oh, no, I do not. So okay, that's realistic.
The good news is, here's all your money back. What you bought, what you spent on it, and what you bought it for. So you have to start over. You have to do the work again. Like, are you going to buy the same boat, or are you going to for a little newer one, or are there things you have in mind that you really would do different?
Yeah, I would do it again with this boat. I would do it again with this boat or a similar boat if it was possible.
Because one of the things that I've noticed, because this boat is now how many years?
It's 43 years old.
Because mine is 51, and I know there's a lot of issues because of its age. Like a lot of the aluminum is just deteriorating.
Yeah. Okay. So I think. Okay. So let me try that. Okay. I would choose a boat like this boat, where you find this sweet spot of your boat, in my opinion, is at the early days of a quality fiberglass production boat.
Right.
And specifically what I'm talking about is the processes themselves, using them in clean rooms or in very clean warehouses, and then laying the fiberglass in a manner that would hold up to the test of time.
Right.
So finding a boat that hits that spot of it has good bones, and I'm not saying that Albergs don't have good bones. I'm saying that your specific one has had some wear on it. And
previous owners have not maintained it.
And that's exactly the other piece.
That's definitely the second one.
The second piece of that is how well, no matter how well the boat is made initially, if it's not cared for well, it will deteriorate.
Yeah.
This boat specifically, when we looked at it, it's a story that it's worth telling for just a second. I don't know if you care, but we looked at about 40 or 50 boats before we looked at this boat, me and Becca, and this was the ugliest boat we had seen. But it had the layout and it had the good bones. And what I meant by the good bones was it was made by a quality builder,
right.
Pearson. It was made during the time when they knew what they were doing with fiberglass in terms of process, but not before they realized that it was really strong, and then they started making them a lot thinner. So it hit that sweet spot of it. And then the owner themselves had, despite its very recent visual deterioration, the owners of this boat had kept very good care of it up until very recently, and we caught it on the downslide, but a very, very rapid downslide of its condition.
Okay. It took you 6 months before the boat was in a condition, so it was like kind of
right. That's right. So if you think about, like, you would need 6 months on, if you were to find this boat in this condition with your skill level, you would need 6 months before you could get it into the condition of moving the boat and sailing around the Caribbean or sailing around the world on it. Right. And then you would need to continue to do stuff as you went. Right. But that's not, that would be fine. With
my skill level, you mean that you don't have to come to my boat anymore when I grind a full
I
hole
think,
through
well,
the deck?
I think that's, you've
Let me show you this.
You've come a long way on that, egg.
Okay, I have a big problem. I made a massive mistake. I grinded all the way through. Ah, no!
What's going on?
Oh, you will see.
Oh, man. Oh, man. Oh, yeah, that's not good. That's not good. But, no, it was not a boat that was going to be ready for less than $50,000, basically, on this boat. You could have, like, for me and Becca, the decision was around, do you take $100,000 and spend it on the boat and then only use $20,000 or $30,000 to upgrade it? Or do you spend $20,000 on a boat and then take the $100,000? And for us, and for me specifically, I absolutely believe the latter is the right answer. Mostly not for the financials. It's for the reality that if you're actually going to do blue water cruising, you ultimately have to rely on yourself. And what that means is you ultimately have to do it yourself. Every single system is going to have to be yours. So there is no one that I yell at. There is no, like, on boat owners, sometimes they talk about, like, screw the previous owner or something like that, or dang POs. Like in my mind, there is no PO on this boat anymore. Every system is now ours. We own it. So when something goes wrong, we know where to look, and we're very likely capable of repairing it because Becca and I have only the skills that we have, and we only have those tools.
If you want to do a charter with this boat, like your bedroom is pretty open, like could you close it off?
Okay, so this boat specifically, and I can show you afterwards, but this boat is specifically was designed with the idea in mind that in Rhode Island, over in New England, older people that were retired in their 50s, 60s, and 70s, in the early 80s, would need a crew member or 2 crew members to be on their boat with them and make the long passage from New England down to the Caribbean. And then once you got down here, the crew would get off the boat, and then you'd have the space for yourself. So this layout is actually built around that idea. Okay. It's the same idea as chartering. You close that back door, and our aft cabin with all the electrical panel is all closed off. And if I close in the cockpit companionway, the whole area is closed off. And then you have access to the V-berth.
Okay.
You have access to the saloon, the galley, the head, and you can also exit the boat without having to go back through my area. So in this boat specifically, it would be very capable of chartering, but only for a couple. Right. A couple with maybe like 1 kid or something like that, but you couldn't do like the new boats now. If you're looking to do a charter where you have a 40-foot boat that you can have 3 paying couples on, there's no way this boat can be. This could be a 1-couple boat that you would do like either romantic evening sails on, or potentially like a week-long kind of more extravagant. Right. That would be my opinion how this boat could serve that need.
I think there'll be quite some people out there questioning like the electric motor. I know you like it. We know each other well, so I do know that you bought, how many kilowatt is this?
It's a 20 kilowatt. Oh yeah, for sure. And I can talk about like, look, it's not, there's a lot of things we've done wrong or not necessarily perfect on this boat. We definitely undersized the motor. We should have put a 30 kilowatt in here, but that's almost less the point, is that I should have doubled or tripled the battery capacity side.
What do you think about the amount of wood you have on the boat? Because I have wood on the boat, but
you got a tow rail, mate. You got like look, teak above is really hard, and here's probably the thing that maybe most people don't think about. Teak above in the Caribbean is really hard because the sun is so aggressive, and so you can't keep it nice. Like if you're in the Northeast, the Pacific Northwest or the Northeast, you could have 1, 2, or 3 coats of varnish on, and your teak will look great for a couple of years. Down here, you could have 10 coats of varnish on, and by the end of the first season, it's going to look bad. So most people don't want to invest the time in keeping their teak up exteriorly, and it's usually hard to make it look good after the fact.
Right.
So outside, I got too much teak, in my opinion, and this boat doesn't even have that much teak outside. But down below, I love it. I love it. Now, here's one thing just a lesson learned for me. When I first did this, the most amount of labor actually went into the wood.
Okay.
I mean, we're talking hundreds of hours of labor into this wood. And I used very, very nice, but I used interior varnish. Okay. And because over time, you see these hatches are open, because you always want to, and then the sun just hits them. Right. And so if I used exterior, I would have gotten a solid 50. So it's a little bit more money, but I would recommend using exterior even on the inside if you have any wood, because your sun's going to find a way down below.
Right. I guess another big question is, what do I think about the boat? Well, I guess maybe I should start differently. We know each other since a very long time. Do you think this would be one of the more ideal boats for me, or not yet?
Yeah, I think I tried to talk you into something like this. Like, I think something like this is the boat you want. You to do what you want to do, and to be out here and to experience life where you have these challenges and you're having a place to come back to that is a little bit more comfortable than you are now is a big deal. And unfortunately, space is a part of that equation. Because space allows you to have the extra stand-up paddleboard, that allows you to have a friend come visit you, or you could have the barbecue. There's just things that you can do with a little bit more space. Now, you don't need the 5-foot disease where you need a 50-foot boat in 2 years, but I do believe a 38 to 44-foot boat is an ideal space for you to be able to do this until you find a lot more success, and then you need probably a 65 or a 70 foot. Yeah, you need something else.
How much solar do you have?
1900 right now. I lost 100 watts. I got 1900.
1900 watts. This boat is really growing on me. In the beginning, when I walked, I remember, and you have to work and do many jobs on a boat first before you can actually get a feeling in a boat of how it would be, how much work it potentially could be. Like, and now I've done the work.
Yeah.
I know enough to. So, yeah, this is definitely one of the a type of boat that I would definitely consider. One of the advantages of a little newer boat potentially is that you have like 2 aft cabins, which could be beneficial for a charter. Like, that's what I'm also thinking. Hey, what if I'm out of money? Then what? You know, and on with the 2 cabin, there's a bigger potential of doing charters.
But we talked about this, where to some extent there is no perfect boat.
Right.
You mold your life, but you also mold the work you do to that boat. Right? There's very few things you can't change on a boat. You really can't change the hull shape, and you really can't change the physical layout.
Right.
Other than that, a lot of things are negotiable. I think you're going to stumble across boats in the 90s and early 2000s that could work for you, as long as then you're
With the money.
Well, even money, but there it matters more specifically who was making a very, very high quality boat, because then they got the idea of go thin with the fiberglass, and so thin fiberglass with very poor processes.
Right.
Guys could have some issues. So those 90s, early 2000s boats can have some issues that the 80s and 90s boats, they were made so thick that they have a little bit more forgiveness to them. That's legitimately a true point. So if you get into those newer models to give you more space, the reputation of the actual manufacturer and the process they were following is as important. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah. I hope I am here to see you. Here's what I'm saying. 2 years out here with you. I hope I get to see you in 2 or 3 more years, and you're on a boat that's about this size, so you can go as fast as me, and then you can actually buddy boat with me.
It will probably happen.
Yeah, I hope so, my friend. I hope so.
I hope you learned something. I definitely did. So I'll see you next time.